The fate of being a smart politician in Africa. Why? Why do we do this Abantu Africa? Even so, why do we even allow this to happen within us and amongst us? This is one of the greatest heroes of African politics, of African leaders of this 20th century. We realize that he was assassinated and killed and abused by his own, led by Mobutu Desire Seko. And people, the millions of us, never really bothered. We have forgotten about him. We do not remember him. We do not even have anything to do with him in a coordinated manner. Everything is random. In December 2013, the United States Department admitted that the President Eisenhower authorized the murder of Congo's first democratically elected Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba. The CIA chief Alan Dulles allocated $100,000 to accomplish this act. We know what happens. We know what is happening in the Congo. Why do we allow this to happen? Again, we see one of our ladies, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti. She was a teacher, a human rights campaigner, and wanted fair governance. She died in 1978 from injuries incurred after military officials threw her out of a window on the 3rd floor of her son's Fela Kuti's home. Why? Why? These were black people. Why is black leadership like this? Again, we see here in Zimbabwe, Mrs. Sheba Tabar Wisa, who went to war, joined the liberation struggle, fought many battles, but after Uhuru, they dumped and literally threw her away. She passed on and died, and now she's buried in an unmarked grave. It's happening in Zimbabwe. It happened in Zimbabwe. Why? Again, we see one of the iconic leaders of against imperialism, iconic leaders of Africa. He said imperialism is a system of exploitation that occurs only in the brutal form of those who come with guns to conquer and rule territory. Imperialism often occurs in more subtle forms, alone, like what China is doing, food aid, like what we all know, blackmail, like what our leaders, all of them, suffer from. We are fighting this system that allows a handful of men on earth to rule all humanity. Thomas Isidore Sankara, a prophet in his sayings. We now know that China has come and is taking all out. He was killed by his friend Blaise Compaoré, who sold out to the French. There is another young lady here in Rwanda fighting the Kagame regime. Diane Rwigara was born in Kigali in 1981, and she is known to be a fierce critic of President Paul Kagame and faces hell daily. Though she is not perfect, just like all of us, she is an unsung heroine. We must spread the message. We need people. We need ideas. We do not need monarchical rule. There again, we have one of the brightest ever African to walk on the African continent, Joseph Thomas Odiambo Mboya, who was assassinated by his own in July 1969. He was a trade unionist an educationist, a pan-Africanist, a great thinker, an author, an independent activist, a cabinet minister, an effective cabinet minister, founding father of the Republic of Kenya. We don't want these borders, but we're using them so that we can easily communicate. He negotiated at the Lancaster House Conference and was instrumental in the formation of Kenya's Independence Party, KANU, which he served as first Secretary General. He laid the foundation for Kenya's capitalist and mixed economic policies. That's how Kenya is. He made Kenya. He is the Kenyan, not all the rest that we know, the drunkards, the alcoholics, the sellouts that are selling us to China. They don't think, they don't have any mental thinking. They are just blind people, all of them. He was killed by his own. Again, here is the iconic leader, Chris Hani, killed and ignored by his own. What I fear is that the liberators emerge as elitists who drive around in Mercedes-Benzes and uses the resources of this country to live in palaces and gather riches. It's happening in South Africa. They let him killed. They didn't worry about him. We know who sold out. Again, there is Tom Mboya. He said, we will never sell our freedoms for capital or technical aid. We stand for freedom at any cost, Tom Mboya, but they sold out. He said, I have news for you, Africa. There is no Superman. It's up to you. That's great. So that's what they think. They think Superman is coming. Again, the super tribe, the greatest one, Eduardo Mondlane, who was assassinated by his own, who was sold by his own. We can see that Mondlane was assassinated by a bomb blast at beach house in Mozambique. He was killed, and all what we can do now is pay tribute to them. Again, super tribe, the Reverend Ndabaningi Stole, the founder of the liberation movement of Zimbabwe. He is the man who instigated the fight. Many others wanted negotiations and talks, but he's the one who stood up and said we have to liberate ourselves. Although he went to China, signed the first deals for arms, he was a capitalist to the heart, he was a nationalist to the heart, he was a pan-Africanist to the heart. Nobody else has come close to this man. There he is with the luminary chairman Herbert Chitepo, who was later assassinated via the sellout of his own, using the British, using the CIA, using the special air services. He was assassinated by his own because through tribalism. There we go again. General Tongogara with his deputy Tungamirai there. What he said is that what some of us are fighting for is to see that this oppressive system is crushed. We don't care whether don't even care whether I will be part of the top echelon in the ruling party. I am not worried, but I'm dying to see a change in the system. That's all, that's all. I would like to see the young people enjoying together, black, white enjoying together in a new Zimbabwe. That's all. They later killed him on the 26th of December 1979. There again is Steve Biko, or Bantu Biko. I write what I like. The greatest conscious thinker. He said whites must be made to realize that they are only human, not superior. Same with the blacks. They must be made to realize that they are also human, not inferior. For all of us, this means that South Africa is not European, but African. War to us today. South Africa is turning into Indian. Again, there is the first Prime Minister of Nigeria, Balewa, who was assassinated, who was killed, and his remains were left on a roadside near Lagos for 6 days after he was ousted from office. Just imagine. There we can see him with Kennedy. Tafawa Balewa was brilliant. He played important roles in the continent's formative ways. He was instrumental in the indigenous rule. Although he was a Muslim, he was also instrumental in negotiation between Moise Tshombe and the Congolese authorities during the Congo crisis in 1964. He led a vocal process against Sharpeville massacre of 1960. And he also entered into alliance with Commonwealth ministers who wanted South Africa to leave the Commonwealth in 1961. He was overthrown and murdered in a military coup in 1966 on 15 January, as many leaders were in Nigeria, including his old companion Amadou Bello. The circumstances of his death are still unresolved. His body was discovered at a roadside, as we have said. Again, there is Ruben Omnyobe, who was killed by the French. There is his grave, the grave of Omnyobe. The banality of the grave contrasts in an astonishing way the man's greatness. Ruben Omnyobe, 1913 to 13 September 1958, was an anti-colonialist Cameroonian leader slain by the French army on 13 September 1958 near his village at Bomier Bell in the department of Nyonkele in Monkobasa. There he is. He was killed more were killed by the French. The French were the most cruel colonizers of Africa. 5 Cameroonians, key leaders of the independence activism from left to right in the foreground: Osende Afana, Abel Kingu, Nyobe Felix Moume, Ernest Owande. Except Kingu, they were all killed. There they are, severed heads of UPC leader nationalists. The French used to cut heads off by the dozens before discharging them from trucks in the city center to terrorize populations. The heads were left to rot in the midst of a people and were prey for animals. Later on, in a visit in 2009, the French Prime Minister Francois Fillon, in a revisionism exercise of history of which he is a specialist, said, "I absolutely deny that the French forces were involved in any assassination in Cameroon." Oh, why? What a lie. Oh, this is pure fiction. You can read a lot from this website that we are indicating. The French were worse and are worse colonizers than anybody else. There is Ernest Owande. You can see he's going into his execution. Ernest Owande stepping forward with an impressive serenity shortly before his execution in January 1971. Cameroon died with him. Again, there is the double kill. There is Alphonse Massamba Dibat, and there is President Marianne Ngobal. 3 August 1968, President Alphonse Massamba Dibat was overthrown by this man in Congo Brazzaville by an army coup led by Marianne Ngobi. Dibat led the country since independence in 1963. Both would die in a week within each other. In 1977, Ngobi assassination, and Dibat by firing squad for allegedly knowing of the assassination plot. Again, there is the great king Shaka Kansenza Ngakona, 1787 to 1828. Tingane and Mhlangana, Shaka's half-brothers, appear to have made at least 2 attempts to assassinate this great king. He was not perfect. Don't take my word for it. Before they succeeded, with perhaps support from Pondo elements and some disaffected Iziyandane people. Meanwhile, the British colonists considered his regime to be a future threat. Allegations that European traders wished him dead problematic, but could be true, since Shaka had granted concession to Europeans prior to his death, including the right to settle at Port Natal, now Durban. Shaka's corpse was dumped by his assassins in an empty grain pit, which was then filled with stones and mud. There again, we remember Ken Saro-Wiwa, and we know that the military government in Nigeria was also involved. He said, "I've used my talents as a writer to enable the Ogoni people to confront their tormentors. I was not able to do it as a politician or as a businessman. My writing did it. I think I have the moral victory." Ken Saro-Wiwa, what are you doing yourself to liberate our black people? You can read a lot on this website about his assassination. These were real heroes, real fighters, real people with errors. They are unsung heroine and heroes. Weep for them. Let us remember them all. There are many who must be included in this list. We shall do so in future. There are millions who fought, shed tears and shed their blood, who are now lying forgotten. I think we know the real enemy from within us and from without. And we have seen what happens to the smartest African politicians. The greatest tragedy here is our memory. We must memorialize this and their acts. We must whisper their names regularly and tell our children and grandchildren, yes, they were not perfect. You and me are not perfect either. But at least they showed us courage. They showed us the way. And many were killed by our own people. What a shame. What a shame. Let us rise up. Let us memorialize them. Let us think about them. Let us tell about them. We shall now visit, and we should visit all other African leaders in the diaspora. Subscribe to our channel, Committee Buru Ethics, and Time to Rebuild, and Time to Memorialize our heroes. This is Priest Teacher Rabbi LM Tumisulu. This is our contact email, lmtumisulu@gmail.com. Tatenda Siabonga. Thank you.